So King Charles is on experimental RNA drugs, and the palace has been keeping that quiet for over 2 years while quietly positioning William to run the entire show. Not next year, not in some hypothetical future where Charles gracefully hands over the reins. Right now, in 2026, while the official line is still that the monarch is in a precautionary phase, that phrase alone should make anyone paying attention sit up straight. Precautionary doesn't mean recovering, it means bracing. It means preparing for scenarios that no one wants to articulate out loud. Because once you say the words, they become real in a way that a carefully worded palace statement can't undo. Before we get into the specifics of what's actually happening behind those palace walls, take a second to subscribe to Prime Archive. I'm following every development on this story, and you're going to want the updates as they come because this situation is accelerating faster than the royal household wants anyone to realize. The gap between what the public is being told and what's actually unfolding inside the institution is widening by the week, and the people who understand the full picture aren't talking on the record. They're whispering off the record, and what they're saying should concern anyone who cares about stability at the top of the British state. The experimental treatment King Charles is receiving combines immunotherapy with cutting-edge RNA drugs, the kind of frontier medicine that costs a fortune and isn't available to the average cancer patient walking into a public hospital. Royal editor Tom Sykes broke this in late April 2026, more than 2 years after Buckingham Palace first announced the cancer diagnosis in February 2024. 2 years. That's how long they've been running a narrative about standard treatment while the reality was something entirely different. The palace denied prostate cancer speculation early on, which is fine, but they also never filled in the blank. They just let everyone assume things were manageable. They allowed the public to fill in the gaps with optimism, and the public obliged, because nobody wants to imagine a king fighting for his life with treatments that haven't been proven over decades. Meanwhile, the king was being pumped with drugs most people have never heard of, and the only reason we know now is because someone finally talked. Someone inside the circle decided the public deserved to know what was actually happening, and that leak should tell you something about the mood inside the institution. When people start talking to journalists about experimental cancer treatments, it means the pressure inside the palace is building to a point where silence is no longer sustainable. King Charles himself addressed his health during a Stand Up to Cancer broadcast in December 2025, and the way he framed it was fascinating. He talked about early diagnosis, effective intervention, and adherence to doctors' orders, allowing his treatment schedule to be reduced in the new year. He called it a personal blessing and a testimony to advances in cancer care. And look, I don't doubt for a second that the man wants to be optimistic. Anyone facing a cancer diagnosis clings to good news. Anyone sitting in a hospital room waiting for test results wants to believe that the trajectory is upward. But reducing treatment frequency is not remission. It's not being cancer-free. It's a strategic adjustment based on how the body is responding. And when you pair that with reports from Radar Online describing the king moving with a cane and deteriorating significantly in recent months, the blessing narrative starts to feel more like crisis management than transparency. It starts to feel like a man trying to convince himself as much as the public. What makes this entire situation even more unsettling is the contradiction between what different sources are saying. You've got royal aides characterizing his condition as a precautionary phase, which sounds reassuring. It sounds like the kind of phrase you'd use to describe someone who's basically fine but being careful. You've got Tom Sykes reporting quiet optimism among senior officials. But then you've got insiders describing deterioration, and you've got the king on experimental drugs. All of these things cannot be true simultaneously. Either he's doing well and the treatments are precautionary, or he's declining and the palace is buying time. Those are two completely different realities, and the fact that both narratives are circulating simultaneously suggests that someone is not telling the full truth. Richard Fitzwilliams, who has been covering the royals for decades, put it bluntly. The pressures on King Charles, who is suffering from cancer, are intense. Not were intense, are intense. Present tense. He used the present tense because the crisis is ongoing, and everyone who knows anything about the situation understands that the outcome is far from certain. And those pressures aren't just physical. The monarchy is dealing with a convergence of crises that would strain any institution, let alone one built on the idea of continuity and stability. Charles is fighting for his life with treatments most people can't access, Camilla is reportedly struggling to walk, and William has essentially taken over operational control of the crown. This isn't speculation from some fringe commentator. Multiple royal insiders have confirmed that the shift from heir to leader is structural, not ceremonial. One source said even the most experienced staff have seen the change. Another added that since the king's health issues began, there's been a clear acceleration. William isn't just supporting the institution anymore. He's actively guiding parts of it. He's making decisions that would have gone through Charles's office 2 years ago, and he's making them without waiting for a formal handover because the circumstances don't allow for the luxury of waiting. The royal warrant situation proves this better than anything else. In spring 2026, William and Kate became grantors of royal warrants. This is not a symbolic gesture. This is not a ceremonial pat on the back for the next generation. Royal warrants allow the issuer to officially endorse businesses that supply goods or services to the royal household. It's real economic and institutional power. It's the kind of authority that shapes commercial relationships and signals to the business community who matters inside the palace. Kate made history as the first Princess of Wales to grant royal warrants in 116 years. Charles approved these roles, which tells you exactly where things stand. He's delegating monarchical power while he's still alive, because the institution needs William and Kate fully operational now, not later. He's handing over the tools of the monarchy piece by piece while the public still thinks he's running the show. A source close to palace operations stated that, in many ways, William is already king unofficially, and the institution is getting ready emotionally even if the paperwork hasn't caught up. The paperwork always lags behind reality in situations like this, and the reality is that the transition is already happening in every way that matters. William has also deliberately formed a small, trusted circle around himself and works on a strict need-to-know basis. His schedule, his planning, his key decisions, all managed within his own household, completely separate from the king's operation. That separation is intentional. It's not about efficiency. It's not about dividing the workload in a sensible way. It's about preparing for a transition that no one wants to publicly acknowledge is already underway. While Charles was preparing for his state visit to the United States in April 2026, William was arranging private meetings with key figures to discuss the monarchy's future, not the monarchy's present. The future. He's building authority piece by piece behind closed doors, and he's doing it quietly enough that most people haven't noticed the power has already shifted. That's the hallmark of an effective transition, when it's so smooth that the public doesn't even realize it happened until long after the fact. And then there's Camilla. The queen is reportedly in such poor health that she can barely walk, and the palace is working overtime to keep this story contained. She has special shoes made by a London company to hide foot deformities during public appearances, growths that would be visible without custom footwear. Surgery to remove bunions has been recommended, but she's been warned against it because the recovery is extremely painful, and experts suggest she may eventually need a wheelchair. That's the Queen Consort of England potentially facing mobility loss, and the palace is talking about sinusitis. That's what they're offering the public, while behind the scenes, they're ordering custom shoes and consulting specialists about mobility aids. Camilla missed the Duchess of Kent's funeral in 2026, a high-profile event where her absence was immediately noticeable. The official explanation was acute sinusitis, and she expressed her regrets while noting her thoughts and prayers were with the family. But acute sinusitis doesn't explain why insiders are talking about liver issues from years of drinking, a serious case of pneumonia, and foot problems severe enough to require custom concealment. Footwear. Her absence from that funeral coincided with Donald Trump's visit to Britain, and while she did attend events for the state visit, the pattern of health-related absences has royal watchers deeply concerned. Camilla has been a steady support for Charles throughout his illness. She was at the London clinic with him, she encouraged him to reduce his public duties. But now she's struggling herself, and the palace seems to want to pretend it isn't happening. The irony is that some experts suggest Charles may actually be managing his cancer better than Camilla is managing her own declining health. Two people in one marriage, both facing serious medical challenges, and the institution is trying to project stability, trying and failing because the cracks are visible to anyone who looks closely enough. The Harry situation makes everything more volatile. In June 2026, Prince Harry is bringing Archie and Lilibet back to the UK for the first time since 2022, and William is reportedly furious. Royal commentator Amanda told Page 6 that it's difficult to say whether reconciliation is possible right now because the relationship is extremely strained. But the really interesting development isn't the tension between the brothers. That's been ongoing for years. What's new is the split between William and King Charles over how to handle Harry. The king and his heir do not agree on this, and that disagreement is playing out behind closed doors at the worst possible moment. Tom Sykes reported that Charles wants to mend the relationship with his younger son. He's ready to forgive Harry for the criticisms in Spare and the Netflix documentary series, and they've already begun rebuilding their relationship following a private meeting at Clarence House in September 2025. A dying king wants to reconcile with his son. That's a human story before it's a political one, and it's hard not to understand why Charles would want to heal that wound while he still has time. William, on the other hand, is much less flexible. He's kept his distance and hasn't joined any of the meetings between Charles and Harry. A friend of William told the Daily Beast that William believes Harry is responsible for many of the recent family troubles, that he feels personally betrayed by the book and the documentary, and that he worries any reunion could revive the Sussex brand. William isn't just angry, he's calculating the institutional cost of letting Harry back in. He's thinking like a future king who has to protect the monarchy from anyone who might damage it, even if that person is his own brother. Royal reporter Emily Nash said she doesn't expect much to change during this visit, noting that the family situation is difficult and strained and won't improve quickly. For context, it's been almost 4 years since Charles last saw Archie and Lilibet, and that was during Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee. Think about that. The king has barely seen his own grandchildren, he's been fighting cancer and receiving experimental treatments, and the two children who carry his blood have been living on another continent while the clock ticks down. When Harry arrives with the kids, every public appearance, every absence, every statement from Kensington Palace will be dissected. William's response to this visit isn't just a personal matter between brothers. It signals what kind of king he intends to be. Some people close to William see the Harry situation as crucial because a reconciliation could lead to discussions about Charles potentially stepping down due to health concerns. The family drama and the succession question are completely intertwined, and Harry's return could accelerate conversations that the palace has been trying to delay. William's vision for the monarchy is already visible if you know where to look. When he became Prince of Wales in 2022, he rejected the grand investiture ceremony that tradition demanded. Instead, he chose to visit Wales quietly with Kate. No fanfare, no elaborate ritual, just showing up and being present. That single decision tells you everything about how he plans to lead. He doesn't want the monarchy to feel like a museum piece. He wants it to feel relevant, accessible, and grounded in the realities of modern life. Unlike Charles, who focused on a high volume of public engagements, William prefers to engage deeply with fewer issues, particularly climate action and mental health. It's a generational shift in how the monarchy presents itself, and it's happening whether or not the public is paying attention. The Duchy of Cornwall is where William's long-term thinking becomes undeniable. This private estate is worth approximately £1.3 billion, and reports from May 2026 indicate William plans to sell around 20% of it by 2040 and invest £500 million into housing and environmental projects. He'll fund this through land sales, development income, partnerships, and borrowing. This is not someone who's waiting for his turn. William is actively reshaping one of the most powerful private estates in the world on his own terms, years before he'll wear the crown. He's making financial decisions that will echo for decades, decisions that will shape communities and landscapes long after he's gone. His global strategy is equally deliberate. Kensington Palace announced in February 2026 that the Earthshot Prize ceremony would take place in Mumbai, a city William and Kate visited in 2016. William stated that India is vital for climate and nature, highlighting the potential of its young population to create meaningful change. This is branding and positioning, pure and simple. William is telling the world what his reign will prioritize before he officially becomes king. He's laying down markers that will define his legacy, building a platform that extends far beyond the British Isles. He's also made a strategic hire that hasn't gotten nearly enough attention: Liza Ravenscroft, a well-known crisis management specialist. Insiders say this move is designed to protect the Prince of Wales' reputation, even though the role isn't officially labeled as crisis management. You don't bring in crisis management unless you expect crises. You don't prepare for turbulence unless you know the weather is about to turn. The coronation planning reveals the same philosophy. William reportedly wants to simplify the traditional ceremony significantly. Insiders say the goal is to ensure the event has more impact and stays relevant. Supporters describe his vision for the monarchy as one defined by accountability, purpose, and resilience rather than by tradition alone. One palace source explained that William understands that having a title does not bring influence. It's how you use that influence that matters. He believes credibility builds through decisive actions, not just through inheritance. He wants to eliminate grand ceremonies and handle failures openly, to run the monarchy like a company with transparency and measurable results. This is a radical departure from how the institution has operated for centuries, and it will face resistance from traditionalists who believe the monarchy's power lies precisely in its mystique and distance from ordinary accountability. But there's a problem with the slimmed-down monarchy William envisions. He's running out of royals. Harry and Meghan are gone. Prince Andrew lost his role due to scandals. So who actually does the work? The ribbon cuttings, the charity visits, the diplomatic receptions, all the unglamorous labor that keeps the monarchy visible in communities across the country. One option is Lady Louise Windsor, the 22-year-old daughter of Prince Edward and Sophie. Royal commentator Christopher Wilson from the Daily Mail says she charms everyone who meets her and could be a valuable member of the royal team. But Sophie has been protective of her daughter and might prefer she stay out of the public eye. There's also 18-year-old James, Louise's brother, but little is known about his personality or whether he even wants a royal role. During Trooping the Color in June 2026, royal watchers noticed James taking a spot that had once belonged to Harry, which raises serious questions about who will support the next generation of working royals. The ceremony itself was a statement of continuity. Charles, Camilla, William, Kate, and all three Cambridge children on the Buckingham Palace balcony for the RAF fly past. But the changes are already happening behind the scenes. The faces on that balcony are shifting, and the gaps left by those who have departed are becoming harder to fill. The monarchy is currently changing in ways the public is just beginning to understand, and the person driving that change isn't waiting for permission. William has taken control. Not through a coup, not through any dramatic announcement, not through a televised address that would send shockwaves through the Commonwealth. He's taken control through a steady accumulation of authority that has made him the operational head of the institution, while Charles focuses on surviving. A senior courtier indicated that when the handover happens, it won't feel like surrender. Charles will not seem pushed. He waited his entire life for this role, longer than any heir in British history, and when he steps back, it will be on his terms. But the process has already started, and the timeline is being dictated by experimental drugs. A queen who can barely walk, a brother returning with children the family barely knows, and a future king who has already decided what kind of reign he intends to have. The palace can call it a precautionary phase all they want. What it actually looks like is a monarchy in transition, and everyone inside those walls knows it. The question isn't whether the transition is happening, it's how long the palace can keep pretending otherwise before the truth becomes impossible to hide.